Whenever most people think about sports like running, they may think about like a sprinter with large muscles sprinting down to the finish line, or maybe a marathon runner who's collapsing at the end of a 26.2-mile road race. When most people think about sports, they think about the physical side of it. But rarely do people actually think about the mental game, about what their mind is going through as they do these tasks, these seemingly impossible tasks. And the mental game could easily be one of the most important aspects in pretty much any sport that you take or anything that you do. But first, what is the mental game? The mental game is simply your motivation, your drive to do something. Without motivation, we wouldn't do anything. An example of this, and the first time I ever encountered the mental game, would be in my 8th grade cross-country tryouts. I had no expectations for this. I walked in with torn up shoes, PE clothes, and I didn't even have a water bottle. I got to the starting line and I started running way too fast. I didn't even pace myself and it was 90 degrees outside. By the end of the first lap, anyone that had any quantitative data about my body, like my lactate threshold, VO2 max, running economy, even if they looked at me, they would have immediately said, he is not going to finish that race. And they would have been right, but they were wrong. Because at that point in time, the motivation that I had kicked in. The idea of, oh, I have to get to this team, I have to do this. This is something that I literally pushed myself to do. It kicked in. And I ran at that same speed for the next 3 laps. And by the end of the 3rd lap, I was lightheaded from breathing so hard. My legs felt like they were gonna fall off. Heck, I probably had another hole in the tons of holes that I had on my shoe. But nonetheless, I ran as fast as I possibly could, and I finished the race. My coach then finally told me that I got the fastest time ever, and I had never run a mile before in my life. And at this point, after that cross-country tryout, I came home and I thought about how I was able to achieve such a task. How was I able to run a mile faster than anyone in middle school without ever running a mile before? And that's when it hit me that sports aren't always physical. They're very important mentally as well. Training your mind could be important, just as important, if not more important, than training your physical aspects like your legs, your arms, anything else. And this is what I did, actually. After this, I began to train my mental game as well as my physical game. But of course, to begin with, at the tryouts, my mental game didn't exactly just come. Of course, I had some sort of experience to begin with, as I took karate for about 9 years before that, which really helped build my mental game, especially because I was training for a black belt. And at that time, I had to work with people who were way better than me, who were bigger than me, stronger than me, smarter than me. But I had a drive. I had a feeling of motivation to make sure that I could surpass them. And that is how people train their motivation and mental game. But that's also why lots of people don't want to train their mental game. That's why lots of people forget the mental aspects behind sports and go straight for just, biceps and, triceps and legs or whatever, because they don't want to be bested by anyone. The best way to build your mental game, to gain motivation to do something, is to work with someone who's better than you and tell yourself that you will beat that person at some point in some time. And this is why lots of people fail to achieve what they could achieve, what they could potentially get, because they don't want to train the mind, because they don't want to be worse than anyone else. Now, the mental game is a very complex but simple thing. It's not something that can be it's not something that you can find a number for. It's solely based on your pure understandings. But because of this, you could also implement this mental game and motivation in more than just sports like running. You could implement this in just doing work in day-to-day life. Like, for instance, when I was writing the script for this TED Talk, even though I spent 4 hours writing a script for another class and studying for tests that I still had in a week, I still managed at 12 in the morning to continue writing. Why? Because I had the brains. I kept myself motivated to write this. So that is, if not anything else is taken away, then at least remember that the mental game can help you throughout simply working at home, doing chores. And to be honest, if you want something bad enough, well, you'll find a way to get it, no matter what the circumstances are. Thank you.